I had a health scare. I realized that just being big doesn't justify not trying to become healthy. And at that point, I went for a life insurance policy, a 20-year term life insurance policy, and I got denied. I was 33 years old. They didn't expect me to make it to 53, is how I interpreted that. That really scared me.
All right, a little interruption before we get into today's episode. So I run these shows sponsor free. We will never take on sponsors because everything is self-funded through our Fit Vegan coaching program. So if you enjoy these shows, the best way to support is obviously to subscribe to the channel. But also, if you know anyone over the age of 50 that is looking to improve their body composition, combat sarcopenia, combat osteoporosis, get healthier on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, to simply send them our way at fitvegancoaching.com, because we are the best in the world in helping people over 50 transform. Over 1,000 transformation in 20 different countries. So simply send them our way. In addition to that, a percentage of our profit monthly goes towards supporting cancer patients with their treatments and bills and whatever they may need to support themselves and their family. So you're also supporting additional people outside of the work that we'd be doing in the program. That is all I have for you today, so enjoy the episode. So actually, before we dive into today's episode, I just want to quickly announce we are doing our only Fit Vegan workshop of 2025, which is going to take place on September 20th to 21st in Vancouver, BC. It's going to be an awesome time. To the event, we're going to bring you through multiple workouts. You'll get to have some hands-on coaching with our staff of Fit Vegan coaches. You'll get to connect with other like-minded individuals. You'll be able to eat Fit Vegan approved food that's going to be whole food, plant-based, higher in protein. It's going to be an absolute blast. So if you want some more information on that, I invite you to check out the link down below in the description. We can only take on 30 members, 30 clients for the workshop. So if you are a Fit Vegan member, you do get a saving on the workshop. Just check the Fit Vegan app. If you're an alumni member as well, just reach out to us. We'll be able to give you the code so that you can save some funds. If you are a member, you want to bring a friend, you will also be able to get a saving for your friends. And if you're from the public, the workshop is pretty cheap for everything that's going to be included in it as well. So you might as well join and come and join us and have an awesome time. And if you've been wanting to work with our Fit Vegan coaching program, might as well join and get the discount on the workshop. Again, spots are limited at a time of this recording. We only have about 15 spots left for the workshop because I announced it to our members first. So head down below to the link, check it out, and look forward to seeing you in Vancouver in person. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Anthony Masiello. Anthony is the co-founder and CEO of Love Life Telehealth, a company that is revolutionizing healthcare by providing access to plant-based lifestyle medicine from anywhere in the world. But his story doesn't stop there. Anthony's own health transformation is nothing short of remarkable. After losing 160 pounds through a whole food plant-based lifestyle, he overcame a series of health challenges and was even denied life insurance due to his health status, only to completely turn his life around. So today he's committed to helping others achieve similar transformation by making lifestyle medicine accessible, affordable, and effective. So in this conversation today, we're going to dive deep into Anthony's journey, the future of telehealth and lifestyle medicine, and some practical insights on how you can take control of your health. Anthony, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, Maxime. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Yeah, well, you have a quite impressive journey, and like we were talking before the recording, we've had the opportunity to connect several times at different events over the past few years, and so we were due to make a podcast together.
For sure. Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, so let's kick it off from the beginning, right? Typically, people that are in a position where they've built or are creating something that it is going to have massive impact in other people's life usually have a strong why.
Yeah.
So obviously we covered a little bit of your transformation, but where does all of this come from?
Yeah, and it's interesting, even when you were sharing the introduction, like, thank you. It feels like a remarkable transformation, but part of me just looks back and realizes how bad things were, right? Or how bad I let
Yeah.
things get. And that's not necessarily something that I'm super proud of, right? But I am proud that I figured that out, and that I came through, and that I've been able to, to stay well. So, because my journey starts back when I was a kid. Like, I was obese from a young age. From when I started the fifth grade, I was overweight, and this was in the early 80s, and there weren't a lot of overweight kids. So it
Yeah.
became a thing. And, meaning that it's somehow that's how people identified me. And then that kind of messed with me, and it became somehow how I identified myself. And and as we know now, right, and I'm sure you know from all the people that you've helped over time, identifying yourself in a way like that is very limiting. And I think that's what
Yeah.
it ultimately did for me over years. It kind of limited me.
I can imagine at such a young age,
Yeah.
like those are the formative years of like building your identity and trying to figure out a little bit more as to who you are and how you fit in. Um, why do you think that is that you were dealing with that at such a young age when it wasn't really a thing in the 80s?
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest question, and that's the one that I still haven't figured out yet. I've been able to look back and reflect on a lot of things and figure things out, but I had I guess a non-traditional childhood. My mom and brother and I lived in North Carolina, and that's where I spent my school years.
Okay.
And but like when school was over for the summer, the next day my brother and I were on an airplane, and we came up from North Carolina to New Jersey, and I spent the summers with my dad. And then the day before school started, we were back on the airplane and we were down in North Carolina, and then we would be there for the school year. We would also come up to New Jersey for Christmas holidays as
Yeah.
well. But it was a lot of back and forth. And my brother, and the reason I mention that is because my brother was in that same environment. He was in, we were in the same space in North Carolina, same space in New Jersey. He's only 13 months younger than I am. So we shared a lot of friends. We were close in age. It's not like there was a big difference in the things that we were into and the things that we were doing. And he always stayed thin and fit. And somehow I was overweight, and we were doing the same thing, whether we were into roller skating or BMX bicycles or skateboarding and snowboarding later on, and like all of these things, like we were both in there just as active as each other. And
Yeah.
we were obviously eating the same meals because we're not old enough to be doing our own thing. For
Yeah.
that, it was always in the house, but somehow I gained the weight, and it stayed with me for a long time, and he didn't.
And how was that kind of growing up into like high school and college? Like when did that I'm curious, like when did the desire to want to change that come up? Did it come as early as in the 5th grade, or did it come a little bit
Exactly.
later
Yeah.
on?
I remember in the fifth grade, we didn't have the resources available, right? But we knew
Yeah.
some things, like my mom would tell me that butter is no good, and that butter contains a lot of fat, and I shouldn't eat butter, so I would stop eating butter. Or the obvious, I knew desserts were no good, so there were periods of time where I wouldn't have dessert, and I would be basically depriving myself of whatever else was going on. But it helped a little bit sometimes for short periods of time, but it never lasted. I was
Yeah.
never able to have a kind of loose program like that where I just said, "Oh, I'm going to avoid fats, or I'm going to avoid sweets, or I'm going to do one of these things." I never was able to make one of those last very long. So there were plenty of times where I lost weight, whether I lost 20 pounds, whether I lost 40 pounds. I think in the early 90s when I was in college, I probably lost maybe 40 or 50 pounds. I wasn't weighing myself at the time, so I don't know exactly how much. But
Yeah.
again, it only lasted for maybe a few months, or maybe up to a year, and then the weight came back, and then it usually came back with extra. And I
Yeah.
think it came back with extra or multiplied because there's a bit of helplessness that you feel when you do that over and over and over. And there's a bit of depression, and it's like, well, no matter what I do, this isn't going to work. And that's a bad way to to talk to yourself. And it's a hard way to it's a hard position to make lasting change from.
Yeah. Did you I think one piece that comes a lot with people that are going through like the yo-yo cycle of like, I finally found the strength to kind of like cut out dessert and cut out all of these things and I get some result. And then life happens, you get stressed, you start eating again. Like we said, you put the weight back on and then some more. They go through one cycle of that is not like it's terrible, it's not too bad, but going through multiple of those cycles, did you feel that it became a little bit embedded into your identity of like, oh, I'm actually going to try, but like, what's the point? Because I have X amount of times that show me the opposite.
Yeah, and it just is exhausting. So it's
Yeah.
not even so much of like what's the point? it's like, oh, here I go. I have to do this again. And I just, as I'm saying that, it feels like, you're putting on like 100-pound backpack and getting ready to climb a mountain. It's just like, here we go again, and knowing that it has not led to a place of lasting success in the past, it's hard to get through those tough times. So
Yeah.
that for me, that was where it was from. And then that leads to different kinds of conversations and stuff. And, I used to tell my friends, oh, I'm not fat. I just have really thick skin. Or, I'm just a giant. I'm this big, width wise. And I'm also, taller than everyone, height wise as well.
Yeah.
I'm 6'4", and
Yeah.
then
We're the
I
same
was
height.
just, yeah, yeah, I know. Um, I'm 6'4", and I was 360 pounds,
Yeah.
and my weight wasn't all like just in the belly. Like my legs were huge, my calves were huge, my, my forearms and everything. I mean, I'm not saying it was huge, like muscular huge. It was certainly, fat huge, but it was like, I just looked like like a normal person, like inflated or kind of like
Yeah.
scaled up. And so I'm telling you this because I had thought about this at different points in my life where I'm like, I'm just a big person. When you see animals in the wild, or when you see, things like this, like some of them are big and some of them are small. Like I just happen to be one of those big ones. And that's where the
Yeah.
conversations
Conversations
go.
go.
And to some point, I almost came to peace with that, with just that I'm just a big guy. I'm just big. But then I had a health scare, and I realized that just being big is not like enough, doesn't justify not trying to become healthy.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinction. I mean, I'm not, one to say that anyone should make changes based on how they look or whatever. But in my case, the indication of being morbidly obese was a tremendous factor on my health, my lifespan, my quality of life. All of those things came into play. And those things are 100% worth working on for everybody.
Yeah. There's two things that you brought up that I want to address before we dive into like the health scare. That you mentioned a little bit like there's a self justification as to
Mhm.
why you are in a certain position that you're in, and you trying to convince yourself, you trying to trick yourself into a place where you start to have peace with the current position. We're like, well, it's not that bad because it's just this way. I'm just this person. And when you refer to like putting on the 100-pound vest, I
Yeah.
just had a conversation with one of my coaches today. It feels like you've touched fire and you've burnt yourself, and it feels like you're about to touch fire again when you're trying to lose
Mhm.
weight. You're like, I know it's coming. Like why would I put my hand there? I'm gonna get burned. And there's that fear and apprehension of why would I even go towards it because I'm just gonna get hurt. I'm just gonna get burned. So
Right.
yeah, I think that was an interesting
It's
framing to
like,
put
why
on the 100.
repeat this again? Like
Exactly, it's gonna hurt. Why do it?
because the tough times are not when you're out in public, and it's not even when you have to go to the beach or the swimming pool. The tough times for me was when I was home alone, just left
Yeah,
with my own thoughts, or laying in bed, going to sleep at night, and the thoughts that run through my mind, and kind of the level of satisfaction I have with the life that I created for myself. That's the, that to me is much more difficult than dealing with, taking my shirt off to go swimming, at the beach or something like that.
yeah. And I think the heaviest I went was 240. And for me, like again, that's not funny, but shower time was like the worst. Like look in the mirror and I'd be like, yeah, like
Yeah.
can't
And
believe I'm here.
we had a small mirror in our bathroom, like a small mirror over the vanity. But when
Yeah,
I would go down to my mom's house to visit, this is a little bit later in life after I had moved away. She had one of those, a huge, the huge mirror that takes up the whole wall behind the vanity. Like it was, the whole
yeah,
wall was a mirror, and her countertop was kind of a little bit lower than normal. So like it was
yeah,
all like, I mean, there was no hiding anything. I could see my whole self,
yeah,
in that mirror. And the mirror, is probably like 5 feet wide, right? So like, like everything. And yeah, that's I never really thought about that too much until you brought that up, but it's absolutely a thing.
Because in public, you can more easily lie to yourself when there's other people, because it you feel like you're convincing others, but then when you're alone, it's like you're trying to convince yourself, and that's a
Right.
harder thing
Right.
at that point.
And we
Um,
learn how to, how to take pictures and how to, like, I mean, me, I
oh
just put
yeah,
my wife in front of me every time I take a picture. Like, I
yeah,
could suck in a little bit, stand up, put my wife in front of me, or overlap whoever I'm standing next to a little bit, like, so still shots, but the mirror doesn't lie, doesn't allow you to do that. And again, like you said, it's not for other people, it's for yourself.
yeah. And to be honest with you, bathrooms have terrible lighting, so it just makes it
Yes.
worse too. We'll just put that out there.
For
Um,
sure.
so let's talk about that pivotal moment, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I I I'm gonna make an assumption. I'm sure you had that, like, I need to change something all along the way until you got to that point. But it feels like, from what I'm hearing, that was the biggest part in your story. Was like, oh, shit, I actually need to do something now.
Yes, and some of those kind of lines or markers that I had hit over time was when my wife and I decided to move to New Jersey. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to move to a new city. I want to, like, I this is a good time for me to make a fresh start. We have, 6 or 8 months of planning. I'm really going to lose some weight so that when I get up there, I'm going to be, I'm going to be proud of like proud of myself a little bit. Start from a different place. That didn't work out. Then we were getting married. I'm like, okay, for my wedding, I want to, I'm going to look good for my wedding. I'm like, that didn't work out either. Oh, now, now we had our first kid. And I was like, okay, now I'm a dad. I have to really figure out how to lose weight. But I didn't until my wife was pregnant with our second son. And at that point, I went for a life insurance policy, 20-year term life insurance policy. Um, and I got denied. I was
How old were
just,
you at that time?
I was 33 years old.
Okay.
So they didn't expect me to make it to 53 is how I interpreted that. And that really scared me because I had always thought about my weight and even some of the minor health things that I was dealing with, like some high blood pressure or some high cholesterol. I always thought of that stuff as kind of inconveniences.
Yeah.
Like, it was never really scary until I realized that here I am. My wife and I are starting a family. We've got these two kids, and they don't have anyone else, right? It's me and my wife that we're responsible for taking care of these kids. And to think that I might not be able to do that for very long was scary. And they don't say, we'll insure you for 10 years, or we'll insure you for 5 years. They just say not for 20, which leaves a big wide span there. Like, do they think I'm going to, they think I'm going to die this year? They think I'm going to die next year? Like, why won't they write me this policy? They really, they had pretty high confidence that I wasn't going to make it to 20 because they would have much rather put me into a high risk category and charged me,
Yeah.
more money per month if they thought I was going to make it, but they didn't. They said bad bet. So that was
That's
hard,
wild.
and it reminds me of something that this is a little bit related to what we talked about before. So then the stories I was telling myself kind of didn't matter because now I had like this third party, telling me something. Not so these weren't thoughts that I was making up for myself. And there's two ways I could have taken that. When I read that letter and said that I was denied, I could have said, "Oh, this company's full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'm fine. I just need to go apply to another company, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to just reapply or do this or that, right?" Um, for some reason, the mood I was in at the time I read that letter, I didn't do that. I pointed all fingers at myself and I said, "Okay, you're in trouble and you need to do something about this." I had to own it. And I don't know why it happened at that point. Maybe there was just enough emotion involved, thinking
Just a
about,
build up.
being a parent and stuff.
Yeah. Just a build up of experiences at that point that were like, this is it. I have to do something.
Yeah. And it reminds me of something that I just read not too long ago. It was a little quote, which I love these things, or a meme. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it says, if you want to feel better, blame others. If you want to be better, blame yourself. And,
Yeah.
reflecting back, that's what I did. But by blaming myself, I also gave myself a lot of power, right? Because I gave myself the ownership of creating the situation. Then that also means that I can undo the situation. At least
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Well, I think it's pretty spot on because if you think that you are not in control, you're going to feel powerless because you don't think
Right.
you can do anything about it. Versus if you do take ownership, then it's like, oh, fortunately and unfortunately, I it is in my power to do something
Right.
about this.
Exactly.
And so I'm curious for you. I'm sure in the moment it was devastating to go through it, but now listening to your stories, I'm like, damn, this is so cool. Because imagine you didn't go through that. Like that was not the pivotal moment. You
Right.
potentially would have continued down the path you were in. So I love I love hearing people's like pivotal moment of like
Yeah.
he got put himself together, he changed his life and everything turned around.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what was the game plan that happened after you've had this reflection?
Yeah. So I had zero plan. So this was in October of 2005. And all I knew at that point was I had to change. So it took me the rest of that year, the next 3 months, October, November, December, to think about what I was going to do, and to put a plan in place, because again, all I had ever known is how to fail at losing weight, and I wanted to figure out how to succeed. So I probably did a little bit of poking around, a little bit of research, but not very deeply. But I did set a goal for myself as a New Year's resolution going into 2006, and I said I want to lose 50 pounds this year. And how I thought I was going to do that was by eating less and by skipping, not having any desserts or any sweets of any kind, and not drinking any calories, not drinking any sodas, not drinking any calories.
Yeah.
And so I started January 1st, right? And I kept myself hungry, and I started, just asking for water whenever I went out to restaurants, or whenever I was whenever I needed to drink something, it was just water. And I didn't have any more sweets. When I was at work in a big office and they brought in, donuts or whatever it was, I didn't
I hate that they
participate.
do that too. It's just
I know,
everywhere.
it's torture. And, and so, and by March, I didn't lose any weight at all. And that was just as depressing to me, or maybe even more depressing, than being denied the life insurance policy to begin with. Because here I am, I'm putting in a lot of effort. I'm saying no, I'm making those hard decisions. I'm not doing the things, I'm not having Ben and Jerry's ice cream at night, like I used to. I'm not, drinking sweet drinks or even coffee with, sugar and milk in it and stuff. Like I wasn't doing any of those things, but I was getting no results.
Yeah.
And it started to send me back into that point of, this is just who I am and how I am. But that's kind
Yeah.
of blaming, you know, the world, right? Or my environment, or blaming my genetics or something. But, my wife was about ready to give birth, and I knew that I had to figure this out. So I just started Googling and searching on Google, and looking for vegetarian weight loss. Because
Why vegetarian?
the thing that helped me in the early 90s is I went vegetarian. But at
Oh,
the time I went vegetarian in 1994, all I did was I bought a wok, because that's what everybody was buying. That's what they were selling on late night TV, woks.
yeah.
So I bought a hand hammered wok, and I made myself stir fried vegetables and rice.
Yeah.
And I got, and it worked, right? But then I figured out, that Ben and Jerry's ice cream is vegetarian, cheese pizza is vegetarian. And like, so it
Yeah.
didn't take me too long to replace all the meat-based foods that I was eating that were unhealthy with vegetarian alternatives for what
Yeah.
was healthy. And we didn't even have like vegan desserts and burgers and stuff like we have now. Like it was
Yeah.
pretty crude, but I still figured out all of the other food that I could eat. But I was proud of being vegetarian, and I had felt better in that first period than I ever had before. So I never went back to eating meat.
Yeah.
So here I was at 360 pounds, denied this life insurance policy. I was already vegetarian. And all of the popular weight loss at that time in the early 2000s, it was all Atkins diet. It's really
Yeah.
the same as like, kind of
Makers, all those
keto and
things.
high protein and everything that's out now. But I wanted to stay vegetarian. And so I looked for vegetarian weight loss. And I found Dr. Furman's book, Eat to Live. And it just popped up on Amazon. And then I went and I read, the reviews on Amazon. I was reading about the book. First of all, on the front cover, it says fast and sustained weight loss.
Yeah.
Because he's a bold guy, so
Yeah. It's a
he put
good
that.
CTA.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't double check with anyone. He put that right on the cover, fast and
Yeah.
sustained weight loss. And then, but then when I read the reviews, what people were commenting about the book, nobody was talking about weight loss. Everybody was talking about getting healthy, and everyone was talking about getting off their medications, and their cholesterol was lowering, and their blood pressure was improving. And people were saying these conditions that they had for years, when they were following this program, they disappeared. And I was like, wait a minute. Here was another pivotal moment. I don't want to lose weight. I want to be healthy, right? And just reading what was on that Amazon page helped me to understand that. And because losing weight probably isn't going to extend my lifespan if I keep all of these health conditions at the
Yeah.
same time, I was like, wait, yeah, that's not going to make me able to care for my kids for a long time. What I really need to do is get healthy. And it turns out that getting healthy, a side effect of that is if you're overweight and you get really healthy, you lose quite a bit of weight. You lose most of the excess weight that you're carrying. So that was when it started. So I bought his book. I started doing everything that it said, which my interpretation was I have to eat more vegetables, I have to eat more fruit, I have to eat more beans, and I have to limit everything else.
Yeah.
And you know, from the first few pages, that's what I got, and that's just what I started doing right away.
So you immediately start to take action versus reading the whole book first and then kind of going through it. Right. So
Yeah, and I
immediate,
made
imperfect action.
exactly right, and I made mistakes, and I wasn't, you can't say that I was a nutritarian for my first couple of months, because I didn't study it and pick it apart and figure out what all these details were. But the concept of thinking about eat more to someone in my position was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I can eat more fruit. Yes, I can eat more vegetables, right? Like, how easy is that? I didn't even get to the part where it said, well, I mean, I got the concept of it, but I didn't start by saying, okay, here's a list of 500 things that I eat now that I have to get rid of. It's like, I need to eat so many fruits and vegetables that I don't even have room for that other stuff on my plate, is how I thought about it. And I
Yeah.
started very simply with breakfast. I used to never eat breakfast, or I would maybe have like a coffee or a coffee drink for breakfast. But where I worked, there was this cafeteria and they had this huge fruit bar. So I just started going there every day and I would fill a container up with fruit and that would be my breakfast because I knew I had to eat more fruit today than I ate yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and
And also, I was going to say, what are some of the changes that you start to notice as you kind of transition? Obviously, basically, you went vegetarian to vegan as well. That's like a thing that
yeah.
happened at the same time. But like, what were some of the changes you started noticing?
So it worked because, and I don't remember exactly when I started noticing that it worked, but I know that 2 months later, on May 2nd, when we brought my son Henry home, when he was born, and we brought him home from the hospital, um, in just that short period of time, I had lost 18 pounds.
Wow.
And, and in my first, wait, was it my first? Oh, no, 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 I'm sorry. I lost 30 pounds in those first 2 months. I
That's
lost
good.
about 15 pounds a month. That
Yeah.
was a lot and that was fast. And looking back, some of that might have been because I had ramped into this by, keeping myself hungry for the 3 months beforehand. And, like, I don't know. I'm not going to try to figure it out. It doesn't matter to me. But you take a guy like me and you lose 30 pounds in a couple of months, like there's no other option. Like I'm charging forward full speed now because
Yeah.
and that mental shift happened. It was no longer making change from a place of disappointment or from fear or from anger or dissatisfaction with how I was. Now it was continuing to change and doing more with this change because of what's to come. Like if I can lose 30 pounds in these months, like how many pounds am I going to lose next month? What am I going to do the next month? And then you start slowly feeling better. And then my doctor wanted to start seeing me because they wanted to start adjusting my medications, and these kinds of things. And all of that is just so supportive and so encouraging. And it's a much more fun way uh, to work hard, right? When it's working towards something really good.
Yeah. How long did it take you to lose all the weight from that moment of transition?
So I ended up losing. So my first milestone that I measured was December of 2006, because
Yeah.
that's where I had that goal to lose 50 pounds
Yeah.
for that year. I lost 90 pounds in that
And
year.
that's with having lost 3 months because you didn't lose any for the first 3 months of the year.
That's right. But the weight loss slowed down. It didn't stay at that 30, 15 pounds a month.
Yeah.
It settled right into about 8 pounds a month, like a clock. But
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
end of the year, so I completely blew away my first goal of losing 50 pounds for the year. And then it took a total of 20 months to lose the 160 pounds. So less
So
than two
less than two.
years.
Yeah. And it's funny because we talk to thousands of people about their transformation. They're like, it'll take you 1 year to do your transformation. Like, oh my God, that is so long, blah, blah, blah. How much did those 2 years change the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, it's unmeasurable. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Changed everything. And
I'm assuming your career changed, your relationship with your kids and your family, your health, longevity, like everything shifted.
yeah, well, what happened also after I lost that first 90 pounds, I felt amazing. By that time, I was off my medications. I was no longer on the blood pressure medication. I was no longer taking the migraine headache medication. My the skin on my fingers had cleared up. I used to have really bad eczema on my fingers. I had psoriasis on the back of my neck, and it kind of made me want to wear like a hood sometimes, or like a high collared shirt because I didn't want people to see that stuff. Like it was embarrassing. All of that was gone, and I forget exactly the timelines, but maybe 4 to 6 or 8 months, like all of those things were gone.
Yeah.
Then I just started feeling good and having so much energy, and for the first time in my life, I wanted to exercise. And I'll also mention those first 90 pounds I lost without doing any exercise. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to say that people shouldn't exercise, because it's quite the opposite. I think everyone should. We've got these bodies, we need to use them and move them and stuff. But here I am. I have a long commute. I work long days. I have a toddler and a newborn at home. I'm trying to figure out this new way of eating. Like there was a lot going on. Um,
Yeah.
but now, like, I was unstoppable. I was like, I'm going to get up an hour early or 2 hours early, and I'm gonna work out in the morning. And I decided to start running. And and that was, I never exercised for fun. I mentioned that I was active. I was skateboarding, bicycles, and things like roller skating, things like that when I was a kid. But I never
Yeah.
had a sport and never had the concept of training for anything, or doing like a fitness routine.
Yeah. Um, so I want to dig into the journey of 160 pounds because, also just for the people listening. So when you have more weight to lose, you lose weight faster at the beginning, and then obviously it slows down, right? So
Yeah,
the curve decelerates a little bit as you kind of progress. So the leaner you are, it takes longer to lose 5 pounds and at the
yeah,
beginning. So just for people listening, not to be like, I have 10 pounds to lose, and it's not just melting off in 2 weeks. Like it's a different process at that point.
yeah,
But people like I always try to dive deeper into like the dark moments of it. The reason being is because people hear that and they're like, oh, eat a whole food plant based,
yeah,
bam, done. Perfect journey. I won't have cravings. I'm not gonna go off track. Every life is gonna be great
right,
now that I know this information.
yeah,
Was there any moment in those 20 months where it just like shit hit the fan with life and it caused
yeah.
you to go a little bit off board and you had to navigate back in, or was it all smooth sailing the whole way through?
Yeah. It honestly was smooth sailing the whole way through, but it's a much more complicated answer than that. It's was smooth sailing because I accidentally aligned all of the stars to work in my favor.
Yeah.
And some of those stars are, the first one I'll mention is I never made a change. I never committed to making a change until I was ready to do it forever, right? So I never said, I'm
Committed.
not going to eat sweets for 3 months, right? Rather than say, I'm not going to eat sweets for 3 months, or I'm going to do something for 2 weeks, or I'm going to do something for, for 30 days, rather than do anything like that, I never made a rule, right? So cheese, for example,
Yeah.
cheese was one of the ones, it took me probably 3 or 4 months to stop eating cheese. And it looks like this. I'm in New Jersey. I'm Italian. I love pizza. It's the best food in the world. I don't eat it very much anymore, but it is, right? So I would go out for lunch with my friends at work, and we would go to get pizza. So to start, even though after I was reading Eat to Live, I would get my 2 slices of pizza. But again, my goal was to eat as many fruits and vegetables as possible. So I would get a huge, like meal sized salad first with no dressing, completely
Yeah.
dry. I didn't even know to put vinegar, like just vinegar on it, nothing, right? Just dry salad. I would not touch the pizza until I finished the whole entire salad. And honestly, usually I never was able to then finish the 2 slices of pizza, right? So then I
Yeah.
would start getting 1 slice of pizza and the huge salad. And then I would eat the 1 slice of pizza, and then I would throw away most of the crust, right? And then I started getting, here we have options. So I would get the bruschetta pizza, right? Which is just the crust and the tomatoes, and then they just put like one little piece of cheese on it, but it wasn't cooked in, so I could
Yeah.
ask them to take that off. So now I'm having, basically bread with a whole bunch of diced tomatoes, my huge salad, and bread with tomatoes. And then you're like, bread with tomatoes is kind of not the same as like real pizza.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm having this. I'm ready. It was good enough, but which was perfect for me because I didn't need it to taste amazing. I just needed to taste good enough, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, you know what? I don't need cheese anymore. So then at that point, I decided now I'm vegan. Now I'm not going to eat any more cheese ever again because it wasn't important to me at the time I gave it up because I had made it through that gradual step. And the same thing happened with the chips at like the Mexican restaurant. I remember the day I was there, the chips were on the table. I'm like, I'm not going to have any chips today, And then maybe the next time I went back, I'm like, I'm not going to have any chips today. And then that was it. Then I'm like, okay, I don't eat these fried corn tortilla chips anymore, that come in the
Yeah.
basket. So everything was done in a way like it was like a progression towards something, but I didn't make these rules that I couldn't stick with. And
Yeah.
then once I decided no chips, honestly, to this day, I haven't had chip, right? To this day, I have not had cheese. I literally still have not had a cookie or a sugar sweetened dessert since 2005. And I don't say that to exercise my willpower because the truth is, it takes zero willpower now because I made that decision so long ago. Like those things almost don't even exist in my world. I've literally never had a piece of birthday cake for my son, even though we go to this amazing bakery. It's called Vegan Treats, and they ship all over the country, and it's not far from us here.
Yeah.
And we get him a birthday cake from there. I've literally never tasted anything that they made at that store, and it's so easy because there's that kind of people call it like a hard line or those bright lines or something. It's like I just don't do that, and I don't tease my mind by going
Yeah.
back and forth. Like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah. I find it interesting. So you embedded it into your identity. Um, I like to use the like cigarette analogy with a lot of people. So if most people that listen to this don't smoke. So I'll be
Yeah,
like, hey, if I ask you to smoke a cigarette, it's going to be a hard no. I feel
right.
like that's what it is for you. It's a
Yeah,
hard no on the desserts, it's a hard no on the dairy, just because it's just not who you are.
right.
It's not even like I said, it's not even a decision. It's not even hard. It's like you have to pause and think about it. It's just like, no, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette. I'm not going to have the cheese. I'm not going to have these things. But your transition to basically you kind of tested yourself. You're like, hey, let me just not have it for this time, or let's remove the cheese and then slowly ease our way into basically
Right,
having a open face tomato sandwich,
right.
right? At that point, and like,
Pretty
oh,
much.
actually, I can survive without it. Great, then I don't need it.
Right.
But what I
And then I
feel that,
commit. But then I
yeah,
commit. When I'm ready, then I committed. And
yeah,
And again, I look back to figure this all out. This wasn't as conscious, this wasn't planned, forward.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like looking back, connecting the dots basically of like what actually happened.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think that's a great way because I think a lot of people will say no more processed sugar
Right.
ever. I'm like, you ever try to do a day first? Try to run
Right.
yourself through a day before you commit to a lifetime of this.
Well,
I
because
think that's a
the
really
problem
smart
is
plan.
the problem is if somebody says, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to ever have sugar again," you probably are gonna have sugar again if you're not, unless you really know you're ready. And when you do, it throws everything out the window. It's all those feelings of failure again. It's all that
Yeah.
self-talk of I can't do this. See, I tried, but it didn't work. And that stuff isn't helping anybody. I'd rather somebody just say, just say, I'm not ready to give up sugar and be conscious about what they do eat. Like always have more fruit, always have more, more salads, always have more vegetables. And if there's a little bit of sugar because it's really important to you, like that's okay.
Would you let me ask you your thought on this.
Yeah.
So I'll use meditation as an example. Some people is like, I want to meditate every day because they're trying to say I'll meditate for 10, 30 minutes and then they can't. So my philosophy is let's just commit to 1 minute. Can you just sit down for 1 minute? If after 1 minute you feel great, good, go for more. But
Yeah.
if you're done after one, stop. So
Yeah.
lowering the bar to entry, it feels like it's the same philosophy with
Yes.
it, like lowering the bar to success. It'd be like, you've done this, great. If you want to keep going, you can, but you don't have to. Would that be the same principle?
I think so because success leads to success and failure
Mhm.
leads to more failure, right? So
Mhm.
if you can do it for 1 minute, you're going to feel strong, you're going to feel empowered, you're going to feel accomplished. And like you said, you might want to do 2 minutes the next day. You might want to do 20 minutes. It might be the weekend. Maybe you want to try to do an hour, but if you try to say, I'm going to do an hour every day and then life gets in the way, like it's probably hard to commit to that. And as soon as you don't do it one day, you feel those feelings of failure and oh, that didn't work. And you just kind of throw it out, throw it in the idea in the trash.
That's why people, when they commit to those crazy things for New Year's, they go like, next January, next month, next Monday, I'll restart because they've failed this like unrealistic bar that they've set for themselves
That's right.
to do it every
That's
day.
right. So, and it comes back to, being kind to yourself. And what I want people to know the most, I mean, your cigarette analogy is perfect for this. I mean, you know, did you crave any cigarettes today?
Yeah, no,
Like, I didn't either. And like you said, I guess most people probably don't crave cigarettes, but we all know they're highly addicting, right?
yeah,
Like people who smoke crave cigarettes, right? But so the point in that is the period of change is hard, and sometimes it's really hard. But
yeah,
once you get through that temporary period of change, like living this lifestyle, living any lifestyle, being a smoker or being a non-smoker. I mean, I think probably being a smoker is probably not that easy to either. Like, I don't know how many people like enjoyed the first beer that they ever drank, right? Like
yeah,
you're like, ew, you have to learn how to like it, right? You probably have to learn how to enjoy smoking, just as well. Like change is hard, but once you get into your mode, like once someone goes quits cigarettes and they haven't had a cigarette in 4 or 5 years, they probably don't think about it at all anymore. And
yeah,
the same thing will happen with things that are related to diet change or exercise routines, or like you're saying, these meditation routines. Once you get it into your life, and once it becomes normal to you, it's very, very easy. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I meant. That's what I meant when I said, I have no problem at all not having sweets now, or never having a piece of my kid's birthday cake. And my kids now they're 19 and 21 years old. It's been all that time. Like I've been there at their parties. I sing happy birthday. I watch everybody do what they do, and it doesn't even occur to me that I would have a piece of their cake.
yeah. I should talk about the family side because obviously when people transform, there's a lot of personal benefits to it,
Yeah,
but most people don't talk about the added benefits, right? Like relationship with your wife, with your
yeah.
kids, in your community. How did you see that transform? Because if I do the math correctly, you were like what, 35 roughly when you lost the weight? Like
Yeah, when I finished losing the weight, I was probably just turned 35.
Yeah. So meaning like you've had a lot of people, family, friends, your wife that have been around you for a long time. And
Yeah,
so now for you to be this completely new person, again,
yeah,
different interaction with you, eating with you is going to be different than what it was before. You look different, you act different. How was that for again family and community around you?
yeah. It's really interesting because the people who were with me the whole time, like my wife, people who live close, friends who are nearby, they saw the change come gradually, and and it's very easy for them to be helpful and supportive and encouraging because they see throughout the process, right? There were people who I didn't see for a long time, and it's a more shocking change.
Yeah.
My mom came to visit, and she happened to drive up, and she got to our house at night. And I went out and met her on the driveway. I had not seen her for probably almost a year, and she almost didn't recognize me. She said, and she
Interesting.
literally had to sit down. She said, "Wait, it sounds like you, but it doesn't
Yeah.
look like you." And it took her a little while to get over that, or to let that settle in. But again, she was very happy and supportive. My grandmother, I went to visit, and she lived in Queens, New York. And when she came to the door, she had a tray of cookies in her hand, and she's
Yeah.
offering cookies. Before we even stepped into the house, have a cookie, and I had to say no, thank you. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to have a cookie. And then my father asked her, he said, "Mom, ask Anthony when the last time he had a cookie was," right? And it's very easy for me. It's sometime in 2005. So I just said 2005, and she like burst into tears. And she thought that I had stopped enjoying my life,
Yeah.
right? And that I had stopped doing the little things that I could share with my family members, and these little kind of celebrations. And she just thought that was, honestly, she just thought that was terrible. And she didn't do that with bad intentions, but
This generation as well, like food is love, food is, social. Yeah, especially say you're
especially as a cookie,
Italian.
and when she was young, I don't know how often she had cookies, but it probably wasn't from the grocery store, every day, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it was a much more rare thing, so it probably meant different things to her. But yeah, so that, and then there were other people who I would see, and they would just start kind of justifying themselves, like
Yeah.
and it's hard to be around there because I worked so hard that I didn't
Yeah.
really want to make light of my accomplishments and say, "Oh, it's no big deal," or "Oh, whatever," right? Like, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I worked really, really hard for it. But when
Yeah.
someone else is basically saying, "Oh, like," they're basically justifying their own behavior or their own outcomes or their own results
Or
in front of
diminishing
you.
yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, yeah. So those are the hardest ones for me. And I probably did stop getting invited to like barbecues,
Yeah.
and I've never been the kind of person who wants to tell other people what to do. I love to help people to do what they want to do, but I don't tell people what they should do. So, I all my friends, like all my close friends, they continue drinking beer. Many of them can, smoke cigarettes. We go out to eat, and they're like having burgers and fries and stuff. And they one day they said, "Anthony can't pick where we go for lunch. We're going to Wendy's today, no matter what." And I was like, "All right, I'm going to figure out what to eat at Wendy's." And I went there. This one didn't even have like the potato bar, which I've heard people say is pretty good. So I had to get it. I got two salads, and I
Yeah.
realized that a salad at Wendy's was like this little tiny thing. Then I had to go back and get like two or three more. So I ate
Yeah.
like five salads from Wendy's at that point in time. But these people, but no one, they were all very encouraging and supportive. Um, just not necessarily internalizing on themselves, but giving me a hard time, being like, "Anthony can't pick where we eat," because I would pick somewhere that had like a huge salad or like a bunch of steamed vegetables or beans and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
And then at my home, my wife didn't change in the beginning because I was the one who was sick. I was the one who had this problem, and I was the one who needed to change. And she was supportive in that she didn't get in my way. She never questioned anything I was doing. She would buy the groceries. She even learned some recipes, and she would make my stuff. But as soon as I wasn't around, she would go out for sushi, or
Yeah.
we would even go to the diner. I remember this one's funny because she would order like the Yankee pot roast dinner that came with like this meat and then these mashed potatoes and gravy and all this stuff, this big hearty meal. And I
Yeah.
would get the Greek salad with no dressing, with no anchovies, with no cheese. And they would come and they would put the salad in front of her every single time. And they would
Yep.
put this big plate in front of me. And then when the waiter or waitress left, we would have to switch them around so that she could eat. But she eventually came around, and it wasn't until I started running and then I started beating her at all the races. And I wasn't just beating her at the races myself. I was pushing both kids in a stroller, and she still couldn't keep up with me. And she's like a lifelong runner. I mean, she ran in high school. She didn't run, she ran recreationally all through college. The whole time we've been together, she's been going out and running all the time. And she couldn't understand that. And I
Yeah.
said, I don't know, like this just feels easy to me, you know. And she switched. Then she gradually switched her diet as well. And it probably took about maybe 2 years after I was done before I would say that she was fully vegan and whole food plant based.
Yeah. It's
And
been a
then at that
while then.
point, what's that?
So it's been a while for her
Oh
that she's
yeah,
been at
so
it.
it's
Yeah.
been, I guess, since the finish for me, it's been 18 years.
Yeah.
And so then it's probably been 16 or 17 years for her. And then for the kids, they really only had like a year or two where they ate like some eggs. I remember they tasted their grandmother's meatball once, like I think literally one time. And but by the time they were like 3 and 5 years old, like they've been whole food, plant based, and vegan ever since.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. And I think one of the pieces people struggle with their partner transitioning. So either they start off as whole food, plant based, and vegan, and their partner isn't. But it seems
Yeah.
like both you guys started not on this path at all, right? Well, you were vegetarian because at that
I
point, I
was
think when you guys,
vegetarian and I didn't drink alcohol, and my wife was not vegetarian and she drank plenty. But it was more the kind of relationship where she's like, "That's fine, you drive."
yeah,
It wasn't like, "Oh, come on, you should have a drink with me." It was like, "Good, you drive everywhere we go, and I can drink as much as I want."
yeah. So you had a private DD basically. It doesn't need a driver.
Exactly.
But I think that's the best way to help a partner transition as well is just not to put any pressure, do your thing, and then
Yeah.
eventually you just beam like energy and health, and people always end up being attracted. And what you shared about your friends, always there's an intimidation factor to it because like, whoa, Anthony's doing so great. I'm not doing so great.
Yeah.
Let me self-justify, let me crack some jokes. And
Right.
it comes from a place of love and knowing that they have to work on themselves. But it's
Right.
for sure, it's definitely hard to be around that constantly because you don't want to make them feel bad. But it's like
Exactly.
you don't want to continue to make yourself feel like so that they feel normal. It's
That's
like,
right. That's right. And I never ever wanted to test my own kind of program, so to speak, or I would
yeah,
never eat something that I don't want to eat, or I would never do something I don't want to do just to kind of make someone else not have to feel awkward. Like I would rather go through that awkward situation. I mean, even like my grandmother, right? Like I I could have really sidestepped that whole issue by eating the
just eating.
cookie, right?
Yeah.
But then I know myself, and the next time a cookie was offered to me, I would have to figure out, well, do I want to eat this one or do I want to pass? Like, no, like I just pass. And you get through those awkward situations or those awkward moments once or twice, and then they disappear. Then you know exactly what to do, and they become easy. I'm a big believer and a big fan that if you just set up solid habits, and I know it's easier said than done, then you can do anything. and you could do it forever.
Yeah, and once you have that awkward conversation with each of the person that you are typically around, so family members, like once you had it once, and it's pretty much done after.
Right.
They're like, okay, Anthony's doing his thing, whatever, right? And eventually you just forget about it, and eventually it's just who you are, right?
Exactly. And it takes what, maybe 2, 3 minutes? Like
Yeah.
it can be a really awkward 2 or 3 minutes, but that's it. It's so temporary.
Yeah. Versus feeling you have to eat a cookie every time you see her.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to talk about impact. Because
Oh,
like as you mentioned at the beginning, you're the co-founder of Love Life Telehealth.
yeah.
How did that come about? Like
Yeah.
what made you go from, again, I'm not too sure what your career was prior
Yeah.
to starting this, but what made you go down that path?
Yeah. So the short story is I was working in pharmaceutical research.
Okay.
And when I moved to New Jersey, I took this job so my education is in computer science, but I was really excited to work in healthcare. And I worked first for the NIH, National Institutes of Health, when I lived in Maryland. When we moved back to New Jersey, and that was basically supporting research scientists
Okay.
with their kind of with their informatics needs, what it was called at the time. When we moved back to New Jersey, they don't have a lot of academic research, or not the same scale that it is at NIH, but here we have pharmaceutical research and development. I'm like, wow, like that's pretty cool. If I could work towards actually helping people to get well, or or to feel better, or help, instead of helping to publish articles, these scientists who are publishing articles, now I can help people who are developing drugs that fix people, right? Because that was the mindset at the time.
Yeah.
um, so that's where I was working. So then I had this health scare, and then I got well, and then I realized I kind of lost a little bit of that passion because I got off all my medications, and I
Yeah.
started to realize that many of these medications, and I'm going to say typically like a lot of the ones for type 2 diabetes, a lot of the ones for high blood pressure, a lot of the ones for high cholesterol, they really are just enabling people to not have to make the lifestyle changes that could get them the same results. The
Yeah.
problem is that the when you take the medication to address these conditions, you don't really get the added benefits of having the whole system healthy, right? You've just addressed that one marker. And now, sure, your cholesterol is lower. That lowers a risk factor for heart disease. That's wonderful. But if you make lifestyle changes through diet and exercise, and you lower your blood pressure, now you've also, like in my case, I cleared up my sleep apnea, I cleared up my migraine headaches, I cleared up my eczema, I cleared up my psoriasis. Not only did I lower my blood pressure, I also lowered my cholesterol. And then, like, all of my markers went from being in the danger zone to being ideal. And then the added benefits that are harder to measure are, I feel amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't really measure that. I started running at at 35 or 34 years old. Like all of these things, I was active with everything I did with my kids. So I was like, well, how can I work now and help people to not need medications? And it was hard. I started having those thoughts back in as early as 2007. But what I did was I just started volunteering. And primarily, I would volunteer to share my story. And, Dr. Furman was close here in New Jersey. So he used to invite me to all of his events, and I would talk to people and I would help people. And then when the National Board Certification for Health and Wellness Coaches came out, I went and got board certified as a health coach. And, I would do some coaching for some clients, but I never really built up, a big individual coaching business. But I just kept looking for, how am I going to help a lot of people? and and I knew a bunch of doctors, from being at all these conferences and from having spoken at all these places and shared and been, I just offered to share, whenever it would help anybody. And I also knew a bunch of people who were struggling, and they wanted to have a doctor who could help them, with making lifestyle changes or creating this healing environment within their body. And I so then I started thinking a little bit about my computer science background and my technology, and I was like, I wonder if we could build a telemedicine, company where it works as a platform where we could basically connect doctors with patients all over the country, who wanted access to this kind of better medicine. And I didn't mention the timeline, but that idea didn't even come up for like 15 years or something like that.
Okay.
It took a lot of exploring, and it wasn't full time exploring because I was also very busy enjoying my life. But
Yeah.
I would do that. Then, so I left Novartis in 2018 and started with a couple of partners, plant based telehealth in
Yeah.
2020. And Dr. Lori Marbus was our first doctor, and she was my co-founder, along with Dr. Michael Clapper and Dr. Christina Miller. And we launched early 2020, and Dr. Marbus saw her first patient. I think it was March 23rd, 2020, just when COVID was coming.
Yeah. That's a good timing. I didn't know it was 2020 that it started.
Yeah, I mean, I worked on it all of 2019 to get everything in place, and you know, luckily I hit each obstacle one at a time, because if I would have known how big the mountain to climb was, in the beginning, we might not have set out on that journey. But
That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, man. You have no idea what's coming for you.
exactly. So you just tackle each problem as it comes up. But through all the legal and compliance and contracting, and then all the technology set up, everything we had to do, it took about a year to get it
Yeah.
ready. And then, and I just love the idea of anything I can do to contribute towards getting people connected with these incredible doctors. Um,
Yeah. So for the people that are listening that potentially are newer to Love Life Telehealth,
yeah,
um, what is it? What does it do? And like, what's the benefits for
yeah.
people?
So what Love Life Telehealth is we provide national access. We provide access nationally and internationally to doctors who practice lifestyle medicine, and that's a mouthful. Right now, we have five incredible doctors, and combined, they're licensed to see patients in all 50 states. So, um, what lifestyle medicine is it's an evidence based discipline of medicine. There's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, that issues board certifications to physicians. That and this training program, and then the board certification tests their ability to be able to treat real medical conditions with things like diet, exercise, stress management, proper sleep, avoiding toxic substances, and social connections. And they realize that when you get all of these parameters, when you do some fine tuning on there, then the body does a really good job of taking care of itself.
Yeah.
People think like, this idea of broccoli curing disease is like, it sounds hokey, right? Or it sounds like quackery or something. But that's not how I would suggest people think about it. What we have to realize is that our bad behaviors created the disease. And what lifestyle medicine is doing is helping people to sustainably replace those bad behaviors with positive behaviors that are going to help to make you healthy. So a lot of it is undoing damage that we've
Yeah.
maybe unknowingly, but that we've done to ourselves over years. They are also board certified in a conventional form of medicine, which means that they can prescribe medications when it's required. The difference is they're going to prescribe medications, ideally on a temporary basis, or for to help you through a period of time. They practice responsible medicine, so they will help you lower your risk of disease today, and then they'll help you to work progressively towards maybe weaning off that medication or lowering that medication over time, or getting to the point where you don't need it anymore because your body has then healed and can get and stay well.
So it's not like the usual path of like, hey, take this pill. I'll see you in 3 months. I'll give you more of them. And then just like keep living how you're living, keep eating the way that you're eating, just keep paying for the bill basically every 3 months. It's like, here's again to hold you off potentially. And I'm sure some people just start off with just changing some lifestyle factors and are able to see great results from there, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I say the conversations are very different because the difference in conventional medicine, where typically is treating the symptoms, or the biomarkers. They're treating your cholesterol. They're not treating you as a whole person. They're treating your cholesterol. They're treating your blood pressure. They're treating your, your autoimmune condition. They're treating your diabetes, right? The doctors at Love Life Telehealth are treating your whole self. They're treating you as a person, and they're looking for the root cause. They're not looking for how do I lower your blood glucose. They're looking for what caused this diabetes in you to begin with, and how can we unwind that, or what caused this high cholesterol, or what caused this early heart disease, or what caused you to feel tired and low energy all the time, or what's causing you to have these headaches. And they're looking at that deeper level to get rid of it. And they're also helping to how can we prevent other things from coming in the future. And
Yeah.
the example I'd like to share with potential patients on that one is like if you go to a regular doctor and your cholesterol is, let's say it's like 185, like they're going to say your cholesterol is normal and they're going to send you home. And then you come back the next year and they say, okay, your cholesterol is 190. You're still within the normal range. They don't have anything for you, so they're going to send
Yeah.
you home. Then it gets up to, they're really just waiting until it gets to 200 or 210 or 215. And then they're going to say, oh, your cholesterol's high and I've got a medication for you, right? The doctors at Love Life Telehealth are going to see your cholesterol. They're going to say it's 185. They're going to say, hey, your cholesterol falls within the normal range. It's not dangerous at this time. But you know that we can make some lifestyle changes, some diet changes, and we can help to lower that now. And if we get your cholesterol down to about 150 or closer to 150, we can pretty much guarantee that you're never going to have a cardiovascular event,
Yeah.
right? Which that's a totally different concept, right? It's like, okay, you're healthy, you're feeling great. Let's look at where you are today, and let's see how we can make sure that you stay healthy and that you stay feeling great and that you stay that where you can enjoy yourself for a long time.
It made me think of my brain thinks in terms of analogies and stories. So it made me think like if you have someone sleeping 4 hours a night and you go see a conventional doctor, he'll be like, hey, take a caffeine shot. And a lifestyle medicine will be like, you should go to bed and take some sleep,
Right.
basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Because we all know at the end of the day that there's really no shortcuts. And the health that you earn through making these diet and lifestyle changes is is not even comparable to the health that somebody, gets by following, the conventional pills and procedures route. And we see that every day. I mean, obesity is continuously increasing. Diabetes is
Yeah.
continuously increasing. Heart disease is still the number one, killer of people, premature death, and and it's not getting better, right? Even though we're coming out with more medications and more procedures and more tests and more of these other things, it's not getting better, and that's scary. That should be something that we're all scared of.
Yeah. Do you one question I have on I said on behalf of the people listening, because we
Yeah.
being in an online platform like we
Yes.
are and like you guys are, we definitely get that concern of like, hey, how are you able to deliver that service if we never meet?
Yeah.
Right. And so just we found a way to do that. So like how do you guys navigate that versus like, oh, I like to go see a doctor in person versus being able to see him online? Like how do you guys
Yeah.
navigate that scenario?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would like to see everybody in person as well. We were just talking about that, before we started the podcast too. I wish we were doing this in person. That's ideal.
Yeah.
What we've tried to do is replicate the in-person experience as much as possible. And what I mean by that is you do see and speak with your doctor in real time. The shortest visit is 30 minutes with the doctor, and most first visits are 1 hour. So we give you enough time where the doctor really can get to know you and get to interact with you, over the computer by seeing and speaking with each other. We have a patient portal system where documents and forms that you need to fill out are just done online. We are connected nationally with both Quest and LabCorp. So if you
Yeah.
need to have testing done, your doctors just order the test just like any other doctor would, and you go to the nearest Quest or LabCorp center, and it's patient's preference, whatever they would prefer, whatever is closer to them, or whatever they know that their insurance covers better. The doctors will write those orders and you can go there. If a patient does need prescriptions, whether that's like a continuous glucose monitor or some kind of medication or something, they can send those orders right to your local pharmacy. And usually by the time you get off the visit and drive to the pharmacy, it's there in a bag waiting for you. All of those things work just like they would locally. There
Yeah.
are some things that the doctors can't do. And I mentioned this before, they practice incredibly responsible medicine. Um, if you suspect that you have an infection, the doctors are not going to be able to properly diagnose your infection. They're not going to be able to just prescribe you an antibiotic in case you have an infection. They're going to send you to someone locally. If you've got a
Yeah.
persistent cough, they cannot put a stethoscope on your chest and see if you're, what's going on in your body and whether you need a further diagnosis. These kind of things you really need to go and see someone in person for. But if you're learning how to better manage your diabetes, if you're learning how to better manage heart disease, if you want to lower your cholesterol, if you want to lower your blood pressure, if you want to focus on prevention and you want to be really proactive, they can measure some of these things for you. They can send you for some blood work. They can go over that with you. They can help you come up with a very detailed lifestyle plan that will help you to make improvements in these markers. And they can do all of that really well and very responsibly online.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful part. Like, yeah, there's an element of like, oh, go to urgent care if you like, you broke your arm. So much you can do online, but definitely all those people that are, again, that are sick and it's a repetitive thing that they need to solve. 100%, it's like a long term solution and not just like patchwork, basically. Um,
Exactly.
so I was gonna ask a question. Like the reason I like the online aspect is because, and we'll talk about the physical location that you guys have in LA.
Yeah.
There's someone in the middle of Idaho. I can't go to that center. And so
Right.
being able to have access to a doctor online and a plant-based doctor is amazing because,
Yeah.
the plant-based community is few and spread. So while
Yes.
you'll have people in the middle of a small town of a random state that there's no vegan restaurant and they're like, I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. And then they're able to have access to a doctor that aligns with their value. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's not just a doctor. I mean, these are incredible physicians who are just as mission and passion driven as you and as I am, and they everything they do is how can I better help my patients. In addition to when you make an appointment with one of our doctors, in addition to seeing that doctor and tapping into their knowledge, you also get the added benefit of the collective knowledge of the entire group. And as I mentioned, we have 5 doctors. They meet twice per month to talk about cases, and they learn from each other and what's working well. If somebody has a success with a an interesting condition with a certain patient, they share that, so all the doctors learn from that experience. If
Yeah.
a doctor is having questions about how to treat something in a particular patient, they reach out to all the other doctors and they get together and they talk about it and they share studies and articles and things that they learn with each other. So it's it's like a community is working for each patient when they come there. I think it's pretty special,
Yeah,
and
it
and
absolutely
it's
is.
accessible from everywhere. Exactly like you said, you don't have to be in New York City or a place like Southern California where you have a chance of finding these. Like we've had patients see these doctors from every single U.S. state in 27 other countries around the world.
Yeah,
And
it's beautiful.
the only difference with international is the doctors cannot prescribe medications internationally, and they can't order blood work because
Yeah.
we're not tapped into those systems. But they can do
Yeah.
everything else with the patients.
Is that something you guys are working on? The international market?
Not yet. We're really trying to work on really getting,
The US.
reaching as many people as we can in the U.S. first. Um,
Yeah.
but they what they do is when they see people. I mean, they see plenty of patients from Mexico and from Canada, and then English speaking countries in Europe and Australia and other places. But they can give them a list of tests and they can go
Yeah.
to their local doctor and they can try to get those tests done. Or they can say, hey, ask your doctor if you should change your medication to this and this and this. And they'll give them some guidelines. They won't tell them to change their medication, but they want them to go talk to their doctor. Or they'll say, see if your doctor thinks that this is right for you. And So they'll give them the whole plan, and then
Yeah.
many times it can end up working in collaboration with the local doctor for those people who are international.
Yeah. So that's great. So they help them navigate the conversation with a little bit more education of like, hey, potentially, like, let's look at this aspect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about the center in
Yeah.
Los Angeles that you guys, because this is brand new, right? It's going to open last year, I believe.
Yeah. It opened about 7 or 8 months ago.
Okay.
I think the grand opening was in August of last year, and it's um, it's awesome. I mean, I still have to. Next time I'm out there, I'm going to make sure that you come to visit.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
center at Love Life, it's in El Segundo, and it's called Love Life. And when you go there, it's got everything that you could ever want under one roof. So when you walk in, there's a cafe on the left, and the cafe is not exclusively vegan, but there's a ton of whole food plant based options on the menu. Just for people who prefer to have some animal products, they can add those to some of the bowls and dishes and salads and things like that. On the right hand side, there's like state of the art fitness center, and it's got all of these high tech machines that help you to measure. They don't let you cheat on your workouts at all. Like like the way that the movements work,
Yeah.
it's all controlled, and they've got everything they need there. And then they can do VO2 max tests. They have hyperbaric chambers. They have these magnetic beds. I forget what they're called. They're
Like the
cryo
PMF,
chambers. What?
like the PEMF.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
They have those. They have everything you need for recovery as well, including 5 different cold plunges that are each different temperatures. They have dry sauna, a steam sauna. They have infrared saunas, red light beds. Like there's really and then there's a whole corridor where there are physicians. There are 2 physicians on site who provide medical care to members. There's a physical therapy staff that's there. And in addition to all of these elements, like the place is just beautiful. Like you go in there and it feels so warm and it feels so zen and it feels so peaceful and positive and productive. And there's a whole spa area. There's a yoga room. There's a reformer Pilates studio. There's I went there once and I did a sound bath,
Yeah.
which was absolutely amazing. A 1 hour long experience listening to to different bowls and things like that that they were making these sounds with. Like
Yeah.
it's really everything that you would want for health and wellness, both on a physical and on a spiritual level, like kind of in one place.
Yeah. It sounds like a big playground to me. I got to buy a house beside it so I could just go train there
Exactly.
every day. I definitely,
Exactly.
oh, yeah. When you come down, we're definitely going to go there together. I'm due
Yeah.
for a VO2 test max and kind of see where I'm at and
Yeah.
get some ice plunge going.
Yeah. Exactly. And then we could play pickleball afterwards. There are 3 pickleball courts also. Like
Per-
it's also like a
Perfect.
playground. There's like everything you want to do there.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing. I can't wait to go because I know we were at an event together, I think a few months after it opened up, right? And I
Yes,
think I was
yes.
going out of town when you were in town to go see it at that
Yeah,
time.
I
So it
think we
didn't line
only
up.
overlapped for a few hours or something, so it didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, next time you're in LA, we'll make it happen. So for the people that are listening, how can they get more information about Love Life and telehealth and all the things guys have going on?
Yeah, so if you just go to love.life, that's the address. There's no .com on the end or anything like that. You just do love.life, and that's the main website for the center there in El Segundo. But if you just look up in the top menu, you can click on telehealth, and that brings you right to the telehealth site. Once you get to the telehealth site, you can see the profiles for all 5 doctors. You can see which states that they're licensed in. We have a couple of really cool health and wellness assessments that we're pretty proud of for people who are concerned about things like heart disease or metabolic disease, diabetes. The doctors have designed packages so that you can it really just includes 2 appointments and a series of lab tests, but it's much more than you would get tested at a regular doctor. And we try to keep them very affordable. They're just about $700 for those packages. But yeah, you can find out everything you need to know there.
Yeah. Awesome. And so I'll link everything down below for the people that are listening, either on audio or on YouTube. Just go in the description. All the links are going to be there. So you guys can
Great,
check
thank
it
you.
out. Anthony, man, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast. I'm happy we were
You
able to
too.
make this happen.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks a lot for having me. I had a great time talking with you. I hope it
Yeah, same.
helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that people are going to get great value out of it. And the reason I wanted to bring you on is because I did get a lot of requests from people of like, I can't find a plant-based doctor because I live in
Yeah,
X small town. I'm like, Anthony does this. Let me just bring on Anthony and
yeah,
we can talk about,
awesome.
yeah, your incredible journey, but also the work that you guys are doing. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I'm excited for us to connect at another event this year. I don't know which one, but I'm sure we're going to cross paths and
yep.
we'll get
Looking
a
forward
run
to it.
in. I've been getting back into it a little bit.
Oh, cool. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep it light though. I'm not running like 50 miles with you. We're going to keep it
No,
light.
that's good. I haven't been running that much either, like that long of distance. I'm just trying to keep up either like 5K or a few miles a day, and and not for any other reason. But then it gets crowded out a little bit with getting on the bicycle or getting on the snowboard now that we have winter here in the Northeast, or we've been doing some trail runs, which are kind of a different animal, but not long
Yeah.
distance. We've been having fun.
Well, awesome. Well, Anthony, man, thank you for jumping on. Everyone listening, go check out Love Life. Thank you for watching the video, and we will see you in the next one.
Sounds
Ciao.
great. Thank you.